Have you ever felt it? That quiet, creeping dread that starts on a Sunday afternoon. The feeling that your stomach is tightening into a knot as you think about walking into work on Monday morning. It's a feeling that has become so common, so accepted, that we've turned it into a cultural punchline. We have memes about it, songs about it. Entire coffee mug industries built around the sheer misery of the work week. But why? Why is it that for so many of us, the place where we spend the majority of our waking hours feels like a place we're constantly trying to escape? We tell ourselves it's just the way things are, that work is supposed to be hard, that a job is just a paycheck, a means to an end. We accept that the environment might be political, that we have to watch our backs, that we are ultimately just a number on a spreadsheet, easily replaced. But is that really true? Is this deep sense of anxiety and distrust the natural state of human work? Or have we just forgotten something essential about who we are and what we need from each other? This very question, this chasm between the workplaces we endure and the ones we dream of, became an obsession for a man named Simon Sinek. He looked out at the world and saw two completely different realities existing side by side. In one, people dragged themselves to work, driven by fear and self-preservation, their potential capped by the energy they spent just trying to survive the day. But in the other, people ran to work. They felt a profound sense of belonging, of trust, of being a part of something bigger than themselves. In these places, innovation, creativity, and joy weren't just corporate buzzwords. They were the natural outcome of the environment. Sinek became consumed with understanding the difference. It wasn't about pay or perks or fancy office furniture. It was something deeper, something ancient and biological. This is the story of that journey, a quest to uncover the hidden forces that make us feel safe, and to discover why the greatest leaders aren't the ones at the front of the line, but the ones who choose to eat last. To understand the breakthrough Simon Sinek had, we first have to understand the world he was reacting to. We have to paint a picture of the before state, the very environment that made his questions so urgent. For much of human history, at least in the corporate sense, the relationship between an employee and an employer was a bit like a social contract. You gave your time, your labor, your loyalty, and in return, the company gave you a steady paycheck and a reasonable promise of job security. It wasn't perfect, but there was a sense of mutual obligation. But then, starting in the 1980s and accelerating to the 90s and 2000s, something fundamental shifted. A new ideology took hold, one that championed shareholder primacy above all else. The purpose of a company, we were told, was not to serve its people or its customers, but to maximize profits for its shareholders. Suddenly, the language of business changed. We started talking about downsizing, right-sizing, and leveraging efficiencies. These were all just clinical-sounding euphemisms for a brutal reality. People were now seen as costs to be cut. The mass layoff became a standard tool in the corporate playbook, a quick way to boost a stock price in the short term, even if it eviscerated the company's culture and long-term potential. This shift sent a shockwave through the workforce, a ripple of fear that has never truly subsided. The unspoken contract was broken. Loyalty was no longer a two-way street. We were taught that we had to look out for number one, because the company certainly wouldn't. This created a generation of employees who walked into work every day with their guard up. We learned to hoard information, to manage our boss's perceptions, to subtly compete with our own teammates for resources and recognition, because we felt that our survival depended on it. The corporate world began to mirror a state of nature, where the dominant feeling wasn't collaboration, but a low-grade, constant paranoia. Sinek saw this firsthand. He had already written a book about finding your why, the purpose that drives you, but he noticed a troubling paradox. He would meet leaders who could articulate a beautiful and inspiring why for their organization, yet their people were still miserable. Their teams were riddled with cynicism, infighting, and disengagement. There was a profound disconnect between the leader's words and the lived reality of the employees. It was clear that having a purpose wasn't enough. Something was missing. The problem was biological. The environments we were building were fundamentally at odds with the way our bodies are designed to function. We were creating workplaces that triggered our stress and threat responses, flooding our systems with cortisol, the chemical of anxiety. We were living in a constant state of fight or flight, not because a saber-toothed tiger was chasing us, but because we were afraid of being thrown out of the tribe, of being laid off for a missed target or a bad quarter. This wasn't just making us unhappy. It was making us sick. It was destroying our ability to cooperate, to trust, and innovate. The stakes couldn't be higher. Sinek realized that the greatest challenge of modern leadership wasn't about strategy or marketing. It was about biology. It was about creating an environment that made people feel safe. This realization sent Sinek on a deep dive into anthropology, into the very origins of human social structures. He went back to the beginning, to the Paleolithic era, a time when life for our ancestors was fraught with peril. The world outside the cave was filled with constant, unrelenting danger. There were predators, rival tribes, starvation, and the unforgiving forces of nature. For a lone human, survival was virtually impossible. Our strength, our only real advantage, came from being together. We formed tribes, and within that tribe, a set of rules and values emerged that was essential for survival. This is where Sinek uncovered his first great principle, the circle of safety. The concept is simple yet profound. The tribe created a circle. Inside the circle, you were safe. You were protected from the dangers of the world, but more importantly, you were safe from each other. The rules inside the circle were different. The expectation wasn't competition. It was cooperation. It wasn't self-preservation. It was mutual support. You shared your food. You protected each other's children. You trusted that the person sleeping next to you wouldn't steal your resources or abandon you at the first sign of trouble. The danger was always outside the circle. This feeling of safety wasn't just a nice idea. It was a biological imperative. When we feel safe among our own, our cortisol levels drop. Our minds are freed from a constant need to scan for internal threats, which allows us to focus our energy on spotting and seizing external opportunities and defending against external dangers. Sinek realized that a modern organization is no different. It is a tribe. And the single most important job of a leader is to define and protect the circle of safety. A great leader extends the boundaries of that circle to include every single person in the organization, from the executive suite to the mailroom. When they do this, the entire dynamic of the company changes. The competition is no longer the person in the next cubicle. It's the rival company across the street. The threat is no longer the fear of a layoff. It's a shift in the market or a new technology. When people feel safe, they stop spending their time and energy protecting themselves from each other and start directing it toward protecting the organization from the dangers outside. They share information freely. They admit mistakes without fear of retribution. They offer to help their colleagues, not because they expect something in return, but because they genuinely feel like they are all in it together. This isn't just theory. Sinek found a powerful, real-world example in a manufacturing company called Barry Wemler, led by a CEO named Bob Chapman. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, the company lost a massive percentage of its orders almost overnight. The board told Chapman he had no choice but to start laying people off. But Chapman refused. He saw his employees not as numbers on a balance sheet, but as human beings, as someone's son or daughter. He believed his primary responsibility as a leader was to protect them. So he gathered his team and announced a furlough program instead. He said, "It's better that we all suffer a little than any of us should have to suffer a lot." Every single employee, from the CEO down to the factory floor worker, was required to take 4 weeks of unpaid vacation. The way the employees responded was extraordinary. The higher-paid employees started trading weeks with the lower-paid ones, taking 5 or 6 weeks off so that a colleague who could barely afford 4 could take only 3. They found a way to share the burden. The result? Morale, which should have plummeted, actually soared. The company saved millions of dollars, avoided layoffs entirely, and emerged from the recession with a level of employee loyalty that you simply cannot buy. Bob Chapman hadn't just implemented a clever financial policy. He had drawn a circle of safety around his entire tribe and defended it against the external threat. He had fulfilled the most ancient and essential duty of a leader. The discovery of the circle of safety was a monumental breakthrough. It explained why some teams and companies felt so different from others. But it also raised a deeper question. The circle of safety is an environment, a condition. But what is the fuel that powers it? What actually makes it work? Why is it that one leader can announce an open-door policy, and it feels genuine and safe, while another could do the exact same thing, and it comes across as a hollow corporate gesture? Simply declaring we are all safe isn't enough. Sinek knew there had to be something more, a deeper biological mechanism at play. This led him to his second, more nuanced discovery, the power of our social neurochemicals. He found that our bodies are designed with a delicate chemical balancing act to encourage cooperation. We're all familiar with the so-called selfish chemicals. There's dopamine, the chemical of accomplishment, the satisfying hit we get when we cross an item off our to-do list to the target or find something we were looking for. It's designed to make us goal-oriented, but it's also highly addictive and short-term. Then there are endorphins, which are designed to mask physical pain, giving us that runner's high that allows us to push past our limits. These chemicals are essential for individual survival and achievement. The problem is, most modern corporations are built almost exclusively around them. We are rewarded with bonuses, dopamine, promoted for individual performance, dopamine, and celebrated for working ourselves to the point of exhaustion, endorphins. But these chemicals do nothing to build trust or foster relationships. In fact, an over-reliance on them can actively destroy trust by encouraging us to prioritize our individual goals over the well-being of the group. The real magic, Sinek discovered, lies in the social chemicals, serotonin and oxytocin. Serotonin is often called the leadership chemical. It's the feeling of pride, of status, the confidence that comes from knowing that others respect and value you. When you get a promotion, or when you walk across a stage at graduation, and your parents look at you with pride, that warm, confident feeling is serotonin. But it's not a selfish chemical. It's part of a biological social contract. In a tribe, we willingly give status and deference to our alphas, our leaders, in return for that status. And the serotonin boost it provides them. They are expected to protect us. They are expected to rush toward danger first, to sacrifice their own comfort for the good of the tribe. This is why we have such a visceral, negative reaction to leaders who are selfish or corrupt. When a CEO takes a massive bonus while laying off thousands of employees, they are violating a deep-seated biological agreement. They are getting all the serotonin without fulfilling their responsibility, and our brains register that as a profound betrayal of the tribe. Then there is oxytocin, perhaps the most important chemical of all. This is a chemical of love, trust, and deep friendship. It's released through acts of human kindness and generosity and through physical touch. A simple handshake, a pat on the back, or looking someone in the eye and asking, "How are you really doing?" can release oxytocin. It's a chemical that bonds mother and child, best friends, and elite teams. It's a feeling that someone has your back, unconditionally. Sinek tells the story of Navy SEALs to illustrate its power. During their brutal training, they are pushed to their absolute physical, mental limits. The only way they can get through it is by relying completely on each other. This process forges intense oxytocin bonds. It creates a level of trust so profound that they are willing to literally sacrifice their lives for one another. They don't do it for a medal or for a dopamine hit. They do it because the chemical bond they share with their teammates is more powerful than their own instinct for survival. This was the deeper truth. A circle of safety isn't built with policies. It's built with serotonin and oxytocin. It is a cumulative effect of 1,000 small acts of leadership, of generosity, of sacrifice, of human connection. It's the leader who takes the time to mentor a junior employee, the colleague who stays late to help you finish a project, the boss who takes responsibility for a team's failure instead of pointing fingers. These are the actions that release the chemicals that turn a group of individuals into a unified, trusting, and powerful tribe. This is the moment in the journey where all the pieces click into place. The ancient anthropology of the tribe, the modern dysfunction of the corporation, the selfish chemicals, the social chemicals, they all converge into one elegant, unifying idea. This is a grand synthesis, the aha moment that gives the book its title. The core problem of the modern workplace is that we have created systems and structures that are in direct conflict with our biology. We have designed organizations that reward and incentivize behaviors that work against our natural, deep-seated need for connection and safety. We celebrate the ruthless executive who hits their numbers, flooding their system with dopamine. while we ignore the quiet, consistent manager who builds a deeply loyal and trusting team through countless small acts that release oxytocin and serotonin. We have created a world that is dangerously out of balance. And the solution, the grand unifying idea, is perfectly captured in a simple story Sinek was told by a United States Marine Corps general. Sinek was visiting a base and was invited to eat in the mess hall. He watched as the Marines lined up for food. He noticed something peculiar. The most junior Marines, the lowest-ranking soldiers, went first. The sergeants and corporals went next, and all the way at the very back of the line were the most senior officers. This wasn't a written rule. There was no sign on the wall. It was a deeply ingrained cultural practice. Puzzled, Sinek asked the general about it. The general's reply was simple and profound. He said, "Leaders eat last." What he meant was that leadership is not a rank you achieve for your own benefit. It is a responsibility you accept for the benefit of others. The perks of leadership, the better pay, the bigger office, the deference you receive, are not the point of being a leader. They are the group's reward to you for accepting the profound responsibility to protect them. They're the tribe's way of saying, "Thank you for being willing to run toward the danger. Thank you for putting our needs ahead of your own." When leaders truly understand this, their entire perspective shifts. They stop seeing their people as resources to be managed and start seeing them as human beings to be led and protected. This one simple metaphor, leaders eat last, is the synthesis of everything. It is the practical, daily embodiment of the circle of safety. Choosing to eat last is an act that generates serotonin and oxytocin. It communicates to the tribe, in a way words never could, that their well-being is the leader's primary concern. This is why the opposite behavior is so destructive. When a leader metaphorically eats first, when they take the bonus while others get laid off, when they take the credit for a team success, when they protect their own career at the expense of their people, they are shattering the circle of safety. They are sending a clear biological signal to everyone in the organization. You are on your own. And in that moment, trust evaporates. Cooperation ceases. And everyone reverts to a state of self-preservation, spending their energy protecting themselves from a leader who has failed them. The title isn't just a clever phrase. It is the ultimate expression of the biological contract of leadership. It's the recognition that true authority and influence are not granted by a title on a business card, but are earned through sacrifice and service to those in our care. So, where does this journey leave us? We started with feeling that Sunday night dread, the anxiety of a workplace that feels unsafe. We followed a path of discovery, from the ancient plains of our ancestors to the neurochemical reactions happening in our brains right now. And we arrived at a single, powerful idea: true leaders eat last. This isn't just a philosophy for CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. This is a blueprint for being human. The beautiful and empowering truth is that leadership is not a position. It is a choice. It is a choice available to every single one of us, every single day, regardless of our rank or title. You can be a leader. You can choose to create a small circle of safety around your colleagues, your family, or your friends. It starts with the smallest of actions. It's the choice to put your phone away and listen, truly listen, when someone is talking to you. It's the choice to ask someone on your team, "What can I do to help you succeed?" and mean it. It's the choice to share the credit when things go well and to take the blame when they don't. Each one of these choices is like a little deposit into a bank account of trust. Each one releases a small burst of oxytocin, strengthening the bonds between you and the people around you. You don't need a budget or permission from human resources to start. You just need the courage to go first, the courage to take the risk, the courage to put the well-being of another person ahead of your own immediate interests. Think about the person to your left and the person to your right. The choice to look out for them is the beginning of everything. This is how we begin to change the world, not with grand, sweeping initiatives, but with an infinite number of small, human-to-human acts of service. This is how we build organizations where people feel safe, where they can bring their best selves to work, and where that Sunday night dread is replaced with a feeling of purpose and belonging. The world we live and work in is the world we choose to build together. If this journey resonated with you, if you believe we can build better, more human-centered workplaces, then consider this an invitation to join a community of people committed to that vision. Subscribing isn't just about watching more videos. It's about making a commitment to yourself and to the people you lead to keep learning, to keep growing, and to keep choosing to lead. Because our future depends on the simple, ancient, and profoundly human choice to put the person next to us first.